Rahim. I begin in the name of God, most gracious, most compassionate, and ask for blessings upon the paragon of creation, our Prophet Muhammad. Elders, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, respected Imams, I offer you one and all the universal greeting of Assalamu alaikum and peace be upon you. I'd like to begin my presentation by evoking a concept in education, and I'm referring to adab, for I understand that adab implies justice and recognition and acknowledgement of the proper place of things. In this spirit, I acknowledge, recognise and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we gather. I acknowledge Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities as the first people of Australia, and I acknowledge Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities for their resilience and commitment to shared futures and healing in the face of disruption, injustice and struggle. Ladies and gentlemen, my mission tonight is to do justice, pun intended, to the theme of social activism in education, all in a mere 9 minutes. I am encouraged, however, by the fact that I'm the first speaker this evening, and I have a dynamic co-presenters with me who can pick up the pieces and fill the gaps. Now, in preparing for this mission tonight, I had to ask myself, what limitations do I bring to the task? The first is that I don't actually consider myself a social activist, yet paradoxically, I'm here to talk about social activism. Now, I put to the audience by way of rationale that within my education career, I never sought for position, but I always strove to display leadership in my practice. I've never presented as a community leader, but I strive to display leadership in community. And likewise, I'm not a social activist, yet I engage in social activism. The second limitation of mine is problematic, because I'm a lecturer, and how do I get out of lecture mode? How do I protect you from me this evening? Because it could be a real mood killer. So my solution was simple: to share with you a snippet of my story, of my lived experience of my journey in the field of education, and through this share what I've come to understand about social activism. And I make the disclaimer that it will not be all-encompassing. Now, the preamble to this story began many moons ago, as it often does. Come with me on this one. I've been an educator for 10 years. A little bit longer than 10 years. I find myself sitting at Holland Park Mosque, familiar to us all. I next find myself sitting in the living room of Imam Uzair, who may be with us this evening. After leaving this sitting, I accept Islam. That's the shortest conversion story ever. I pay for the full story. Charge. For me, all the pieces of the puzzle have fallen into place. I take a few months away from teaching, and in what I can only describe as the type of serendipity that only Allah can pave the way. I'm currently living in the house of Uncle Ross Watson, one of the greatest social activists in Brisbane. One of the co-founders, I should say, of the Murray School, the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander School in Acacia Ridge. One of the founders of 98.9, and famously, one of the protesters who stood in the battalion of Sir Joh Bjelke-Petersen's police force in the 1982 Commonwealth Games protest. Famously walking to the picket line and sitting down and invoking a peaceful protest, he avoided a tragedy. I'm in his house. I've accepted Islam, and I travel to the household of the grandson of Imam Rain. God bless him. And I spend the next months living in this house, learning what it means to live as a Muslim. From this time, nothing is clearer to me, nothing is more passionate to me than my faith. And as time goes by, I become acutely aware of the distance between my other passion, which is, of course, education. So I have one of those light bulb moments. An Islamic school would be the perfect place for me, and an opportunity to combine these two passions, faith and education. So my heart is settled in an Islamic school. I have visions of walking into it and spending our days offering salam, of pigeons resting on our heads as teachers and students sit in halakas and student circles. To borrow from the name of this event, soon I experienced a challenge reality. While it wasn't all that I had anticipated, The 10 years that I would spend in this Islamic school, I consider to be one of the greatest blessings of my life. Now, you might ask, why was the opening of this story important? It's important so you can appreciate that I was seeking to understand what it means to live as an Australian Muslim, and so were my students. This was a search that in many cases we embarked on together. The challenge I was to find is that the institution was and is in the process of understanding itself. An early distraction, a detour, I would say, was the feeling that I needed to change the institution I had joined. However, greater success came when I instead sought to change myself. This is where understandings of social activism for me began to evolve. Now, one of the highlights in my time at the school was teaching health education, which I was asked to establish. Health education is a subject underpinned by social justice. And I would ask my students, what are the most pressing issues in your life? And we would study these. We designed projects with engagements outside of the school. One of these was an inquiry on homelessness. For this, we partnered with Rosie's. So picture this, we're at Woodbridge train station. It's a Thursday night, it's dark, it's cold. One of my students I noticed spends the entire session sitting on a park bench with a gentleman. Later in the debrief session, he explained to me that the man I sat with, sir, he didn't speak any English, but we found that we share a common third language, a dialect. He tells me he cried as he put his hands and cupped my face. He said, sir, he said to me, he hadn't spoken to anyone in weeks, that he travelled for 12 days on a dilapidated boat, hungry, thirsty, not sure if he would make it. And now he's sitting in Woodbridge, wondering, waiting to learn of his status. They soaked up that moment together that night. My student said to me, I will never forget this. Perhaps some of you will be thinking, listening to such a story, well, you didn't change anything. That's not social activism. You didn't solve the problem. But I think this is another lesson. You see, my students were grappling with statements like, there's no homelessness in Australia. There's no excuse for homelessness in Australia, assembly. My family came to Australia and look what we've done. Why can't everyone else do it? Now, to this we would say, mashallah, but of course this is a dangerous line. Reminds me of something Ivanka Trump said last week. You see, if we view social activism and social justice as cousins, then the other cousin is social mercy, where we have to ask ourselves, how merciful are we? Lessons learned, I would argue, by my students in this inquiry, and by the student who spent his evening with the gentleman. Other highlights occurred in the arena of school sport. Now, one of my first priorities in this school, and I'm reminded of a person who actually told me I had to do this. She's in the audience. One of my first priorities was to present a vision for sport, one intimately connected to faith, and what I could understand could be the faith vision of that school. Now, many people contributed to this vision and to the enactment of this vision. Colleagues, parents, and most importantly, the students. It would take several years to realise, but this process was something so beautiful. In other ways, it was sad. Many of the senior students who believed with me, who pioneered this effort, would not get the opportunity to enjoy the fruits in their time in the school. This would come after they had graduated. And ladies and gentlemen, what a lesson in social activism. Sometimes in the pursuit of justice, we must forego it for ourselves. This was about planting a seed. This was about nurturing it. And we know that from little things, big things can grow. Another one of these indicative moments I'd like to share with you is at a major touch football competition. Picture with me, we arrive, we get off the bus. This is a big competition, the real deal. I'm enveloped by silence and with 50 young people, so that's a statement. All the bravery, all the anticipation, all the preparation has given way to the reality that our moment has come, and it's very clear that all eyes are on us. Perhaps it's me, 6'2", I'm in a Quicksilver hat, Oakleys, a red beard, dressed in robes. My effort towards an interpretation of the Sunnah. For their sake, I hope it's me. If I stop at this point as I'm walking to the tent, 50 students, one by one, are going to hit me behind me. They're that close to me. I get to the tent to register. It's been so long since I've been part of a tournament because I've been in this school for 6 years. I'd forgotten to take my students to their area to settle them before I registered. So the whole team's with me, 50 students. I said, it's meant to be. We'll take this road together. I recognise the two coordinators, HBE teachers, gurus, legs up on the chair, head down in the drawer. It's their zone. This is HBE zone. I wait patiently and they sense, of course, our presence. As they take one look up and one look at me, they instinctively and in unison exclaim, Jesus Christ. I hear a collective intake from the students behind me. I smile and I say, no, Dylan Chow, pleased to meet you. We're here to register. It's moments like this that students observe and students watch. We wouldn't win a game that year, but I saw the change in my students. They got back on that bus with their heads held high, and they arrived back at the school. They told stories like returning conquerors. The light was lit in the younger students, and they were saying, next year I'm going to be on that bus. And you know what? We didn't win a game the year after. We got a draw, which is a sign of progress. You see, the students were participating for more than the game, more than winning. This is when I knew that they bought into the vision. This is when I knew that their intentions for participating were broader. This is when I understood that they understood the value and place of sport and contribution. In the third year, we got our first win. The entire tournament celebrated with us. For students, they had lived a process of personal change, and they'd been an active part in cultural and structural change. I wonder whether my audience can find value in these short snippets. And like any teacher, I've been teaching for 20 years. I've got a treasure trove of memories, and memories with young people happen every single day. And I've shared with you but a couple. But I wonder whether you can find meaning in these highlights. I wonder whether the intersections between education and social activism are clear. For me, education is about nurturing young people that are self-aware, critical, but grounded in their own ways of knowing, confident and comfortable in their own identities, able to function naturally in the world, dynamically engaged and able to contribute. Now, along the journey, I've increasingly located social activism for me within a sacred domain, within my faith. I have come to understand social activism, at least the kind that I'm passionate about, as a commitment to common good within faith, which beautifies and adds value to the world, both local and global, but always with a view to the hereafter. For me, social activism begins with a willingness to change oneself, to work on our own hearts. For me, social activism behooves empathy, compassion, mercy and humility. Surely, ladies and gentlemen, Allah is beautiful and Allah loves beauty. And this invokes for us beauty. For you and I know we have much beauty to offer our communities and our society, and indeed we are. Thank you very much for listening.